Audio Wrangling is a sister site to Audio Angling, allowing people with angling and related topics to express them freely, as an insight into what some of the issues were in the early part of the 21st century. My name is Phil Williams, and this is a 2014 recording with David Kent of the Angling Trust regarding social media and the part played in the organisation's day-to-day work by volunteers.
On a pure personal level, one of my big things is social media. If it's used properly and so on, it's very effective and extremely good. But I think that many organisations and many activities are suffering as a result of people's misuse of it, really, and that's one thing that does cause a lot of problems. It's a distraction in many ways, and so people who are involved in administering our sport or whatever it is, I think they tend to sort of get distracted because there's so much of it on a daily basis. But that's just one of my immediate ones. I think from a point of view of our sport generally, I think that although we have lots of very professional people and well paid who do a wonderful job in the organisation, one of my big sort of areas of concern is, are the volunteers. And there are, like every sport, there are hundreds of thousands of volunteers who make the sport tick and make it happen, and often, in our case, on the bank, shall we say. And I think that I do make the point quite regularly. I think that there needs to be more recognition and more acknowledgement of the volunteers' efforts. And it's not easy, but it's not difficult either. And I think that, and it comes back to some extent to what you're saying about the sea angles. I think there needs to be that greater recognition of where people are in whatever role they play within the organisation. And I think that's something that maybe perhaps we should improve on at some point.
What type of activities and volunteers are you thinking about then?
We've got people out there who are doing this voluntary bailiff situation. We've got people out there who are serving on lots of committees representing angling, representing the Angling Trust. We've got people who are running competitions. They're actually out on the bank from 6 o'clock in the morning and things like that. And then there are those who, even around the boardroom table, apart from the paid officers there, the bulk of the board are volunteers. And I just think that angling's no different from any other sport. It relies so much on volunteers, and angling has some very, very good people around in all the different areas. And I think that, I don't know, I'm not doing enough research in other sports, but it just seems to me to feel that maybe we don't recognise the volunteer effort as much as perhaps we ought to do.
So what should be done to put that right for the future?
I think that we could probably see a creation of volunteer awards and things like that. Even a thank you letter sometimes. I remember, when we had the Olympics, there are actual personal acknowledgements given to those people who volunteered. And I think there doesn't have to be a specific way, but I think there can be a way which will work. And I just think it needs a bit of time from people to look at how best that can be done. With my role on the board, that's something I do mention it, but obviously we've made progress, that's for sure. But it's the one thing that I seem to get sort of thrown at me by fellow volunteers, that we do all this but they don't really sort of acknowledge the fact. Then equally, I know people who are involved in tennis. One of my brothers-in-law, and he's retired now, but he said that only in later times was there proper acknowledgement and so on. So I'm not saying angling is any different, I'm just saying that generally speaking, I think sport maybe doesn't acknowledge the input from its volunteers that it perhaps should do,